Welcome to another episode of the Christian Reeve podcast. If you like this here show, make sure you leave us a review on Podchaser. Or, alternatively, if you're listening to the show on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, or elsewhere, please consider leaving a review and a rating. If you're checking out the Christian Reeve podcast on YouTube, make sure to like, share, and subscribe. Also, if you want to support the show, why not check us out on patreon.com/Christian Reeve and get yourself exclusive bonus content and bonus podcast content. How about that? Okay, I've had my fun. But seriously, if you want to support the show, it really helps us out. So thank you so much, and thanks again for listening. Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Christian Reeve podcast. Today's guest is a personal trainer and fitness expert. His name is Luke Butterworth. Welcome to the show. How you doing?
Very well. Thank you very much for having me.
Oh, it's a pleasure to have you, man. I've been looking forward to this, as you know. Many different questions I could start off with, but I think the one I want to start off with, which I typically ask people, is like, where did it all begin? But I know that your training journey is around 6 years from what we've spoken about, if that's correct. Is that right? Was 6 years ago your training journey started?
Around 6 or 7 years, yeah. I started in 2017, I think.
There you go.
Yeah.
So what was the motivation to start? I always think that's quite interesting when it comes to training and taking care of yourself and stuff. Like what was the kind of the moment where you were like, okay, I think I want to start hitting the gym, start, changing myself?
Well, I was always interested in, keeping fit, and I was always into sports as a kid. So, I was very active. I was one of those kids that couldn't sit still. I always wanted to be out exploring, getting muddy, playing football, just being a kid, really, just climbing trees and, toy fighting with my friends and stuff like that. And then when I went to high school, I really got into running. I got into playing football. PE was probably my favorite class. Anything to do with being physically active really interested me. I wasn't so much an academic. I didn't really like to sit down and sit in a classroom in front of a teacher and study and revise and homework and all these things. It just didn't interest me at all. So I suppose my fitness journey started as a kid. As I got older, I started getting interested in skateboarding. When I was around 13, I got my first skateboard and I was hooked. I used to skate every day pretty much, which was really unusual from where I live. I think not a lot of people are interested in, extreme sports like BMX, skateboarding, that kind of thing. It was quite, in a way, taboo, like people were like, oh, you're a skateboarder, like it's what's wrong with you, why are you interested in that? You should be interested in football and that kind of thing, cricket or tennis, it's more mainstream sport, which I also was interested in. I love playing football, love running around doing different sports, but skateboarding just had something about it that just really interested me. I liked the idea that I could do it on my own. I didn't need anyone else to sort of tell me what to do, or I didn't have to rely on other people. Whereas in a sport like football or other things, you can do it on your own, but you need teammates and you need people to rely on. So I liked that aspect of it, and so I kind of went down that route. Did that for a long time until eventually I kind of drifted off from that, and I got involved maybe with the wrong crowd. And I think it's a shame, man, because I really loved it. The skateboarding and the culture, and a lot of people are really nice people that do that. Because they're sort of, in a way, the social outcasts.
Yeah.
And they're generally just looking to find something that is an outlet that lets them express themselves and enjoy themselves physically, without maybe the the need to fit in a little bit. I don't know. I just find it any kind of. I have an interest in anything that's kind of different. So styles of training, um, reading certain books, things like that. Just anything that's a bit different. I kind of gravitate towards. So skateboarding was definitely for me. But yeah, like I said, eventually I got in with the wrong crowd. I started hanging around with the wrong guys, older guys, with drinking and stuff like that. So I deviated from that fitness path to maybe a path that's not so interested in health and fitness, which eventually made me very unhappy. I was out drinking a lot more, started getting into, smoking, which is like totally opposite from fitness, really, isn't it? I mean, if you can describe fitness, because fitness has many different aspects, right? So, yeah, once I'd finished skateboarding, I say finished, it's still in my heart, I can go for a long time now. I kind of quit when I was 21. So I started when I was 13, kind of quit when I was 21. And every now and then I'll jump back on it just to make sure I've still got it, which is surprisingly crazy because it can be a couple of years. I mean, the last time I skated was last summer, but before that, it was 2019. So, that's a few years, right? And surprisingly, I was almost better than I used to be. I don't know if that's because I'm a lot healthier and stronger now. I don't know if that's the case or it's just muscle memory. I'm not sure, but within a few hours, I was doing tricks that I really struggled with back in the day, and I was just landing it like that, which is really bizarre. So yeah, I suppose it's like like riding a bike. They say once you've learned, you never forget. So it just started clicking, and it felt really good. So come this summer, I'll probably start again a little bit. I'm a little bit nervous to do it though, because I know how easy it is to hurt yourself, especially if you're doing it on concrete, right? And you land on the floor, it can be extremely dangerous. But I can't let that stop me. I think as well. I don't want to live in fear of like what could happen. So yeah, it's sorry to go on and on and on, but I'm only stuck on the one thing.
No, it's your
So yeah,
journey. It's fascinating to hear, man, and I'm glad that you brought that up for several reasons. The first thing I'm going to say is if you do decide to skate this summer, make sure you message me because I would love to come skateboarding with you. I used to do skateboarding when I was a teenager for about 7 years. I've
wow.
only, yeah, I've not spoken about this a lot. I did actually do an episode on the podcast in the first year a long time ago, but I've not really often spoken about it. It just never comes up really, but it was a part of my life. And um, hearing you speak about it reminded me about a lot of things. I think that obviously it's you can see the parallels between skateboarding and gym, because gym is also that sort of thing that you don't need people to go with to go and do it. If anything, sometimes it can actually be distracted. Depends. Like I feel like it's gym is the sort of and skateboarding are two types of activities that you can do alone or with people, and if you do them alone or with people, they are drastically different in how they look and feel.
Mm,
But the principles of both, I think, are really positive. Like one of the things that I think is really interesting about skateboarding is that it teaches you like how things like consistency and like let's say you're learning a new trick. I remember like it took me so long to learn how to do fakie big spins, for example.
mm,
It just for so long. I must have been doing it maybe 3 months.
mhm,
And the feeling of elation when you finally get it, when you think about how many hours and how much time you put in, it's like I mean, there's big life lessons to be learned there, but also sometimes it's about kind of stepping out of your comfort zone and not just trying the same thing over and over again. Like sometimes it was really useful when someone would come along and be like, have you tried it like this? And you're like, what? That wouldn't work. And then you do. And then sometimes you land it first time, other times few attempts, and you've got it. But point is, if you adjust yourself, then you find yourself maybe finding it easier, or maybe looking at it in a completely different way, approaching it in a different way. Maybe the reason that you're a better skateboarder now compared to when you were younger is that your thought process is totally different when you approach it. You know, like you mentioned things like muscle memory and stuff, and I think that to some extent that is true. Like it's the same whenever I've picked up a skateboard or a bike, you get that bit of, oh, but then you're fine and you're like, oh yeah, no, I remember. And yeah, it's like the old saying goes, you never forget. But I think that maybe there's less of a sense of self-doubt, maybe. I remember when I was skateboarding, I was a teenager and I had crippling anxiety. I was constantly alone. So I spent many hours skateboarding to try and take my mind off stuff, to be honest. And also, I don't know, it was just part of life. Like, you know, like you said, you do it all the time. Like same here. Every day after school, sometimes I skate to and from school. I used to get up early on weekends at like 7 or 8 a.m. and go skateboarding in London at a skate park under a bridge in Ladbroke Grove called, at the time it was called
Route 66, I think.
Something like that. Back in the day, it was called Bay 66. So that would, probably, they probably just rebranded it. I remember they used to have a little games room underneath one of the ramps. And one of the scariest things I ever did was dropped into that vert ramp that's underneath. Like you can hit the ceiling if you go close.
Yeah, I remember. What it was like,
But it's a great skate park. It's good vibe, good people. It just brings it all back here, and you talk about it, man. Like you do meet different types of people, and they are. I think that the reason they are positive is because if you think about it, like skateboarding, you really are building from nothing. You know, you turn up and you don't know anything. And obviously, back when we were doing it, when we first started, you know, because I think you're mid-20s, about 24.
Oh, no, I'm 28 now. Yeah.
28. Oh, sorry, my mistake. Well, okay, perfect. So we're only a few years apart. So you'll remember, you know, when we first started skateboarding, internet was around, but it wasn't as easy to find like resources. Like these days, I need to learn how to kickflip. So you just look it up and then easy, right? But back in the day, I didn't know. So you go like, hey, and you'd go up to someone older and you'd feel uncomfortable. Like, hey, can you teach me how to? And they'd be like, yeah, sure. Yeah. And that's that's such a powerful thing. Like the person who teaches you your first ollie or how to drop in or
drop in, right? Yeah.
And like so much of it feels like a metaphor for life. Like I remember like the very first time I ever learned how to drop in, that felt like quite a powerful experience because you really do let go. Like it's a scary sensation for anyone who's never skateboarded. Imagine you're standing on top of this ramp and it's scary. It's quite tall. You're probably going to hurt yourself. And you know how to do it. You've been told how to do it. You stand there. Most people do. You stand there for ages, just looking. People are skating around you. And eventually you're going to do it. And then 1 minute, something in your head just clicks and you're like, okay, now I'm going to do it now. And you do it and you go for it. And that moment is so powerful. And everyone in the skate park that sees you do it, guess what? They're all clapping and cheering because it's a powerful moment. It's you basically decided to let go and just trust the process. And one or two things happen. Either you land it first time or you fall over. But what happens? You immediately learn from your mistake. And chances are you're probably going to get up and try it again and probably land it the second time.
I feel like it either makes someone a skateboarder dropping in or it doesn't. You know, learning how to drop in is it really kind of decides whether someone's going to continue doing this or stop doing this. You know, I instantly first time fell on my face, landed on my nose. My nose was bleeding. And, you know, people are like, oh, you okay? You know, okay. But, you know, I was one of those kids that I'd fall and I would get back up. I'd fall and I'd get back up and nothing seemed to faze me. So within a few minutes, I was back up on the board, wiped my nose with blood and I dropped in. And then, I was hooked. But I was hooked before then, before I went to a skate
Yeah.
park. I didn't go to a skate park for like the first year of skating. I was skating in the concrete
Oh
pad.
wow.
We were just
Proper
literally,
freestyle, Mullen
yeah.
style.
Like, I don't know if you heard of Rodney Mullen, but I used to watch.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was a freestyle skater, right? For anyone that's not aware of skateboarding, he was a freestyle skateboarder from the 80s. And he was just all about flat ground, no skate parks needed, no rails, no nothing. And I found that really interesting. He had the freedom and the creativity to do all these crazy tricks with nothing else but just the board and the ground. And I think that's what hooked me at first. And then when I went to a skate park with a few friends, that was like, oh my God, mine was blown. And I was hooked on skate parks then. And, all I cared about was going fast and doing tricks on the ramps.
Yeah.
And just kind of sometimes, not just for myself, but also to I suppose to, in a way, impress other people a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
I always liked the idea of wanting to inspire people to try different things. My style of skateboarding was, like I said, I've got an interest for things that are a bit different. My style of skateboarding was very sort of off the cuff, it was very like hand plants and, doing quirky tricks that no one really knows about,
Old school.
finger flips and, yeah, just weird stuff, that you don't really see very often, but also incorporating some of the newer stuff as well, So it was just a really good outlet for me in my life. And I do miss it, I do miss it for sure.
Same.
There's times when I talk about it and I reminisce, and it's very nostalgic now to talk about it, and it's bringing back really fond memories. I had a great time. Luckily, I never hurt myself in the entire time that I did it. I mean, I've had a few scratches and
Yeah.
scars and things like that, but nothing major. I never broke anything, which is really fortunate. And I got, say so myself, but I got really good when I was like 18. I was doing a lot of the rails. I was stepping it up. I could see my progression. It was improving a lot, and I started to get noticed by some people. Like, okay, this guy might have what it takes to be, go that extra, length and maybe make a career out of it, or maybe, get involved in maybe some teams or something like that. But then again, like I said earlier, I got involved with the wrong crowd, and I drifted away from that scene. And I look back at it, and it's a shame, I think. But at the same time, I wouldn't be who I am today if I hadn't done that. So, it's meant to be, isn't it? And I think, the passion's still there. It's just that I've matured and my interests have changed. But it's still got a special place in my heart, and I would absolutely love to go skating with you, man. I think
I
the
would
thing about
too.
this country is. Yeah, definitely. I think the thing about these countries, though, that the weather's so unpredictable,
Yeah.
and unless you're skating inside, there's just no chance of really getting out unless it's the summer, really. Which is, I think, it's a bane for a lot of skateboarders in the UK is the fact that they want to be out there street skating and they want to be out there doing this and that, but the weather just doesn't permit it. And not only that is it's kind of frowned upon. Like I said, taboo earlier. I think a lot of people don't look down on skateboarders. Some people that are quite abusive to skateboarders because it's different, and people don't like what's different. Well, some people, not everyone, but certainly when I was growing up, it was, I got a lot of hate for it, but it didn't stop me because I loved it.
I think the thing that
Um,
I always sort of found with skateboarding and the general public was more the lengths certain people would go to stop you from having fun.
yeah.
Like I remember there was a McDonald's that we all used to frequent, right? And behind that was like an alleyway, a really long alleyway between maybe some office blocks or something. Barely anyone walked down this alleyway. Anyway, there was a long run up with a staircase. So you can imagine like it was a lot of fun, right? And
Mm,
it was only like a 5 set. It was 5, 6 set, something like that.
enough.
Yeah, it's great. Like just a little mini stair set with like, you could film it. You could do all sorts of cool stuff with it. Then there was a rail as well. But I remember that the council or whoever put those, like, you know, those speed bump thingies, like the tiny ones that you put on, like, deliberately. They put it before.
They're meant to be those little speed bumps that you see. They're
Yeah.
meant to be there for blind people, apparently, before the stairs,
Interesting.
so that they know that the stairs is coming, so that, you know, they obviously don't fall. But
I never
when
knew
we're
that.
kids, we just think, oh, skate stoppers, you know, just they hate us, you know. Yeah, I
I
mean,
never knew that. I thought that was
yeah,
just them trying to be spiteful because they put them before and after the stair set. And I was like, oh, they're just trying to stop us from having fun. And then what we saw that as a challenge, so we just extended the jump even more. So it was like clear the stair set plus the bumps.
yeah, yeah.
But wow,
Cool.
okay, well, we learned something new there. There you go. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. There were a lot of security guards that, like, I would always try to befriend the security guards because I knew that they had to kick us out eventually, and I always liked, like, a lot of them were really cool. I remember there was a car park we all used to go to that had multiple floors, and they'd leave us alone, and every once in a while they'd come up and they'd be like, "Hey, listen, guys, 10 minutes, then you got to go," kind of thing. Really cool. But then other places, they would just chase you, sometimes even grab your stuff, throw it around, like really just aggressive. And it's like, I understand if you're a skateboarder, how frustrating it can be, but you do have to be respectful, like, about your surroundings, and you have to think about that. I think sometimes, and again, it's a rite of passage thing, isn't it? As you're younger, you don't always necessarily realize the impact of your actions and how it can affect others. But then, I don't know, I think for the most part, most skateboarders, certainly when I was growing up, we were conscientious of stuff like that. You know, we wouldn't, like, be doing it in a place that would, like, cause a lot of problems.
I think, you know, I did actually push the boundaries, to be honest, as a kid.
Okay.
You know, as a teenager, with what was allowed and what wasn't. I was very conscious of the fact that it was looked down on and it wasn't appreciated, especially in certain areas. But, you know, like I said, with the groups that I was hanging around with, a lot of them just didn't care about that. And you know, sometimes we'd, like, I remember you talking about security guards. I can remember one incident very clearly where we were skating through the Manchester Arndale, which is obviously not allowed. And we're, like, you know, we're bombing it down. We're going as fast as we can, and we're weaving inside of people. And, you know, we were pretty good skaters though. So, you know, we were, you know, it was almost like the board was connected to us. So we weren't amateurs, just, you know, just going through and just you know, getting in the way. We were, like, you know, carving and cutting through people. But I remember the security guy just jumped out in front of one of my friends at the time, and he just grabbed him and grabbed his skateboard. And, you know, we all just stopped immediately, like, "Hey, come on, leave him alone. Get off your skateboard," you know. But I look back at it now and I think, you know, little shits, man. You know, we shouldn't have been there skating through people. But at the time, you know, it's we thought we were cool. So but,
I got mixed feelings about it, even as an adult male. Like, I look at that and I'm like, like, yeah, it's not okay. Like, you shouldn't be doing it. But at the same time, like, the anarchist to me is like, I don't know. When I see teenagers do shit like that now,
I mean, we weren't purposely.
Yeah, you're not. It's different, isn't it? Like, it's. I can imagine it in my head, and I know, like, I used to do shit like that too. And there's a big difference between terrorizing people versus you're just doing your thing, and maybe you're pushing the boundaries a little bit. But then I don't know. I feel like it's that whole, when you're a kid, when you're a teenager, there's a rebellious side. You know, you kind of want to go against the norm and just push it a bit and just have fun. And do you know? I'll say this. I think being a teenager is one of the most boring experiences ever. Now, hear me out, right? So when we were growing up, like I said, we had the internet in a very early form. We had things like MySpace, MSN, these kind of things, but it was still in its infancy, right? It was something that was at home on a desktop. We had gaming and stuff, but, like, no one wants to sit around and game all day. Well, some people do, but, like, you know, you want to do things. And here's the thing: as a teenager, even to this day, right, it's always been the case, there's not really a lot to do. That's why when you go into a shopping center on a weekend, you see lots of teenagers and they're sitting around and they're not really doing anything. Because what do they have to do? There's nothing to do. You know,
Yeah.
you can't drink, you can't smoke. And I'm not saying that drugs are the answer to everything, but look, you go to like bars, clubs, all these sorts of venues that adults go to, right? You have to be, sometimes you have to be of age to even enter the building. And obviously, even if you don't have to be, what's the point of going in? It's not like you can sit down. Like, what's the point? I'll sit down and have a Coke. I don't know, it's not quite the same experience.
Yeah, I think you feel almost left out a little bit.
Yes, right.
Like everyone else is having such a good time, and they're out doing this, and they're allowed to do this and this, and you kind of feel a bit like resentful a little bit because you're not part of that club.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, you know what? If I'm not part of that club, I'm gonna be a bit edgy. I'm gonna do things in my way.
Well, it's like you say, you feel a bit overlooked. You feel like there's no place for you. When I used to do skateboarding, I felt like it was something. It was ours. It was something we could do. It was us versus them kind of mentality. And maybe it was. Maybe it wasn't like that. You don't often, I think, as a teenager, sit and think about the fact that all the adults that you're talking to used to be teenagers too, and probably did the same shit you're doing. And I think, but then that comes down. I met many adults throughout that time who totally got it and were really cool and were like, hey, listen, just be careful, right? But they wanted you to have a good time. And then there were other adults who I think they were just born as 45-year-old miserable bastards. And they just, I don't know, they couldn't relate to you. And I think for anyone that struggles with the younger generations, maybe you have siblings, kids, whatever, and you are struggling to relate to them, try to remember like how you were when you were a teenager and try to gauge into that. Try to remember that like it's not necessarily that you want to battle against the world or everything's against you or whatever. It just feels that way because there's not a lot to do. Like, school, let's face it, it's quite boring. It's not very stimulating. It can be, but most of the time it's not serving you necessarily. Do you know what I mean? There are certain areas it does, in many other areas it doesn't. Sometimes kids are too smart for school, or they got loads of energy and time and they don't know what to do with it. And I know that there's things out there like community things for kids, sometimes youth projects, and increasingly now we're seeing even like events now where it's like I think I even saw like clubbing events for teens, but it's like managed properly, and now they're able to do something like that, so they get a bit of a taste of that, but they're taken care of. So maybe it is getting a little bit better, but with all that considered, and then also the fact that it's the internet age, and everything is documented and everything is online, and everyone's obsessed with that. I think we will move past that eventually, but that's kind of where we're at the moment. It's maybe perhaps the most difficult time of all to be a teenager right now.
I think touching on that subject is you're talking about like the internet back then when we were growing up, and the internet now, and also just the presence of being online, right, and everything like that. For me, like you say, MSN, MySpace, maybe Facebook, like, but as a teenager, it was like we went out and spoke to people. We went out and talked to girls. We went out to get on a skateboard, like you say, asking people, can you show me how to do a kickflip? Can you show me how to do an ollie? And that built some confidence, right? I fully believe, and I kind of feel like, in a way, I lost that confidence as the internet began to take more of a role in my life. It started to take away from my experiences that I'd learned about building confidence through actual social interactions, because I became to rely more on needing like to watch videos on how to do things and things like that, rather than the method beforehand of actually speaking to people and maybe reading a book or speaking to someone older with more knowledge than you. And I think that's
You're right. Actually, I remember one time I was doing a live stream and someone asked me a question point blank about like, "Hey, how do I do this?" or "Do you know about this?" And I just started telling them, and then they said something like, "Oh wow, thank you. It makes a change from people just saying Google it."
mm,
But
yeah,
you're right. It's I don't know. There's a lot to be said for that. Or like I like cooking, right? And I love it because it's creative and you can kind of tweak it and make your own
yeah,
little concoctions and stuff. And I love just deviating. Like, let's say there's a recipe and I don't like something about it. I like just changing it to suit my own taste palettes and just being, you know what I mean? Just having fun with it. Like,
yeah, yeah.
you never know what you're going to discover. And I think you're right. There's a lot of that is lost in society now, and there's a yearning for it. And I think that will be the new wave. It's starting to push through slowly, but we're not quite there yet. I think right now, what we're seeing, and this taps into our conversation off camera yesterday about how this generation right now is dealing with a lot and are depressed because they're living within these phones, these devices. They're not living in the real world. You know, like when this show's over, camera's off, I go and I live my life. You know, it's this is in a moment, and then I come out of that, and then the real world is still there in, you know, outside my window. It's a, I don't know. I feel like the internet often creates false expectations and a false reality of what actually exists. I mean,
Yeah.
like, do you know what I mean? Like when we go in the gym and we're working out and we bump into each other and we're talking and everything, like it's quite, in a way, it's quite old school, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
I know people do like to go on their phones. Everyone's listening to music.
Mm-hmm.
But then again, I think that's because like gym music sucks. Like let's
That's
be
true.
real. But it's nice. And and one thing I really love, and I want to sort of steer the conversation to Jim, is how that place is just a positive place to be. You
Yeah.
know, like you look around, everyone's there to better themselves.
Yeah.
Sometimes there's people that I like nod at that I've never had a really conversation with, but you see
No.
them every day, most days for like
Yeah.
2 years, and you're like, yeah, damn, man, still going, yeah, fuck
Mm,
yeah, you know what I'm
yeah.
saying? Like it's just a really positive headspace to be in and a positive environment to be in, and you know, I felt like that was the case with skateboarding. People were always happy to see you, and it was always a positive thing. What tricks are you working on? What are you working on? How are you doing this? How are you doing that? And maybe that's why maybe that's why we like gym, because it reminds us a lot of skateboarding and what we
There's,
encountered there.
there's almost like a sense of camaraderie or brotherhood
Yep.
of people that have similar interests that wish to succeed and also enjoy seeing other people succeed at something. Like what seeing your friend, you know, or seeing a stranger land a trick that they've been trying for the past half an hour or full day, you know, and then they finally land it, you're like, yes, you know. And then to see someone make a positive change in their life, like getting into fitness or eating healthier or just becoming happier in general, you're like, you know, it's that same sort of fulfillment of seeing someone succeed, and which I think inspires you then to continue going down the path that you're going, because you know it's evidence that what they're doing is working, and it'll work for you too, you know. So
You know, one thing that's really cool as well about skateboarding videos on this topic is when they show you a
yeah,
compilation of like every single time they failed the trick and then they finally land it, right?
yeah, it's very
That
satisfying.
it is, but it also is an accurate portrayal of what life is like. The
Yeah,
reality is you're not going to land that trick the first 50 or 100 times. You're probably going to hurt yourself. You're
yeah,
probably going to just be nowhere near. And then one day, in one moment, you're going to land that trick and it's going to feel amazing and it's going to push you to do bigger and better things.
yeah,
You know, and I look at that with everything that I do and I feel like maybe, I mean, I don't know, maybe when I look at everything that I'm doing in life right now and what we were talking about the other day about like never giving up on things, I think a lot of it comes from skateboarding, to be honest,
yeah,
you know, because you just, endless hours again, and maybe people have left the park, maybe people have gone home, and you're still there and you're still trying, and then eventually you get it.
I think, what you just said there, you're absolutely right. It's the one biggest thing I would take away from skateboarding over these years is that, it is about, as much as it's landing tricks and stuff, it's about falling over and then getting back up again. And if that's not a lesson to be learned in life, then I don't know what is. You fall over, you try again, you fall over, you try again, but you don't stop. And if you stop, then then you failed, haven't you? So I think it's that perseverance I think you said the other day you were too. Sorry, I can't remember the word. You were too. I'm freezing up now. You were too. I
Pressure's
can't
on,
remember.
man. Pressure's on. We're live, man. No redos. No.
Yeah. Cut this bit, yeah.
Nah, I like it, man. It's authentic. It's real.
Yes.
This is
So
what life is really like.
you said something along the lines that you were too. You didn't. I can't remember the word, to be honest, but we had a conversation the other day, and you basically said that you weren't willing to give up on things. I think there was a word,
Yeah.
I can't remember what you used, but it's the same with that. It is with the skateboarding and in life. It's if you give up and you don't believe in yourself, you won't get anywhere. So you have to just get up and try again. It's what they say: first you do not succeed, try again, and then try again. And it was the same for fitness for me. When I first got into exercising properly in the gym with weights, I had no idea what I was doing, and some days and I was still hanging around with the wrong groups, and I would have a really good track record of going to the gym for 5-6 days or 4 days in a row, and really just trying to progress and learn and improve my life. And then I'd go out on a bender and I'd take 2 steps forward, 1 step back, and it was like that for a long time.
So
I didn't stop.
This is interesting. So you were in the midst of hardcore training, pretty heavy training right there, and then you're still in this crowd. Now I don't want to pry for like personal stuff, but like one thing I would like to understand is how did you come to sort of make that decision? Like, okay, I got to step away from this crowd to focus on this and move forward, because I think there's probably a lot of people that could relate to that, where maybe they don't want to leave behind friends, or they feel bad, or whatever, but like they realize that maybe this is the wrong crowd, or it's like self-sabotage or something like that. Could you speak to that? Tell us what made that decision for you?
100%. Yeah, that was very hard. Very hard. Because again, like to refer back to the skateboarding, it was like, oh, you're going to the gym, like, oh, you're trying to improve your life, you're trying to do this, okay. Which, just let my dog out. Yeah, so I mean, it wasn't as bad as the skateboarding, because gym's a bit more socially acceptable. I'll put light on as well, because gym's a bit more socially acceptable. But the friendship group that I had at the time was, a few of them were interested in trying to. I think it's that coming of age thing when you get to around 20, 21, 22, you start maturing a little bit more. I mean, for the most part, but you start to think about things like your health. You start to think things about like your future, what path you want to go down. And how your choices and friendship groups and things like that are going to affect that. And I think for me, I always say to people, the reason I got into it was because I had a rough breakup and it really hurt me and all these things. But I think really the reason why I got into it was because I wasn't satisfied with the path that I was going down. And I think regardless of the breakup or not, at the time, I think I would have gone down that path anyway. Maybe not at that time, but eventually I would have gone down that path.
But maybe that the breakup was like a more of a what is it they say when you like ignite You know what I'm saying? Like you ignite,
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
like the final straw kind of thing. Like, all right,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Because there's a lot of people. I remember there was a guy I met at gym. At gym? No, I met at university, um, and we got on really well. We did a lot of work together and projects together. And I remember it was like second or third year, and he was hitting the gym hard. And I asked him about his journey because I was thinking about getting into gym. And I'd done it in the past, but I was just curious. And I was like, "Why'd you get into it?" And he looked really stone cold
Mm,
faced, and he was like, "Yeah, I went through a difficult breakup, and
mm.
just kept going." And I
It,
could tell
it,
like he was probably still getting through it, but it was I could see it in his eyes. I don't know what they always say it's in the eyes, isn't it? But like you can
mm,
just tell people. Like there's been days I had it the other day that when I was having that day. That was one of the best sessions I've had in a long time.
nice.
And weirdly, part of the agony pushes you to go further. And it's like I said to
Mm,
you before, like I think gym is amazing because it puts the power and the control back in your hands. You might not be able to control the actions of others and how people react to things, but you can control how you look after yourself and
yes.
what you put in your body and how you treat your body.
Yeah. And it's like we were talking on camera the other day about that philosophy and mentality and training methodology that's like, not just with the training, but also, the nutrition
Yeah.
is like, I am in control of what I put in here, not just physically, mentally as well. And I'm in control of what I do and decide to do, or how I decide to feel about it, which I think, we talked about yesterday. And I think that is so connected with physical and mental. Um,
Speaking to this fitness philosophy, like some people say that the 80-20 rule is something to live by in regards to fitness. So for those who don't know, the basic principle of that, and it applies to other things in life, but specifically with training and fitness, they say it's like, okay, 80% your diet and what you put in your body, 20% fitness, the efforts you put in the gym, wherever else. What say you?
so, diet is absolutely important. I totally agree with that. I think what a lot of people don't understand is that the food that they eat is going to have a direct correlation to how their emotions are, how their hormones are, how well they sleep, how well they recover, how they generally feel. Are they inflamed? They're eating a lot of sugar, a lot of processed foods. It's not just about calories and macros, proteins, carbs, and fats. It's about a number of things. Something that I've learned over time and my time spent watching, watching videos. We go back to that and talking to people and stuff that I've learned from people in the gym is that the best approach is a whole food diet, rich in colors, rich in micronutrients, and that's really the most beneficial. Good high quality foods, not processed garbage, basically. But I mean, there's so much research into that.
When
And
you, sorry to cut you off there.
it's fine, yeah.
Did you have more on that point before I
Yeah, I was just
go?
going to say, we were talking about the diet, but
Hmm.
also the training is important because without the training, you haven't, there's no, there's no adaptation to be made, is there? So it's about you do the training, and then the nutrition is there to help you recover and also aid in the performance of your training, right? But without the training, you're not going to build muscle and strength. You're just going to be a bit healthier and maybe lose some weight, or if your goal is to gain weight. But without the training, there's not going to be any results. So the training is just as important.
Speak to the training. Obviously, you're a PT, personal trainer, and you train people under your brand, Functional Fitness. Find it on your Instagram. So if you're based in Manchester and you want a personal trainer, could not recommend a better one than Luke Butterworth.
Thank you.
Still think you should do online stuff. Pushing for that.
Yeah, I think that is the goal. I've only been a personal trainer for a year.
Yeah.
Like I said, I've been training for nearly 7 years now. So I've acquired a lot of knowledge, and I'm still learning, which is, we talked about earlier. We're always learning. Um, you know, I found that over this past year has been incredibly enlightening to what people know and what people need to know, and how I can help them best. And I think the best piece of advice I can give to people that are not really into fitness, that want to get into fitness, is start slow and don't overtrain. Do
Hmm.
something simple that can be consistently done over a long period of time, and find some enjoyment in it. That way you will stick to it. Don't do anything that's too extreme.
I saw this online the other day and it completely changed the way that I look at gym and go into the gym. Because as I mentioned to you the other day, like I dropped from 3 days a week to 2 days a week. And it was just because of everything in my life and how things are going. And I felt really bad about that. I was like, how can I really make progress twice a week? Is that enough? Feels like
It's
ridiculous.
enough. It's
It
enough. Yeah.
is. And it is when you consider this. There are 52 weeks in a year.
Mm,
If I'm going to the gym once a week, every week for 52 weeks, that's 52 times a year. If I
is
go twice a week, that's 104 times
yeah.
a year, and so on and so forth. So you can see, like, especially when people worry about, like, oh, I'm not really seeing much, progress in, say, 3 6 months, etc. Well, keep going and you will see it. It will take time, but you will see it. And obviously things like genetics and your diet and all these things come together and they have an impact. But ultimately those efforts will be rewarded. It just takes time, and keyword consistency. I always say that consistency is key.
Yeah, it is. It's
Um,
true.
but yeah, I just want to speak for a second about how you help clients, because I think it's quite interesting. Like, every person is different as far as like how they say put on weight, how they drop weight. Um, some people have better genetics and are really, pick up quite easily. Other people have terrible genetics and it's really hard for them. How do you put together like training plans for people, given that everyone has a completely different, body makeup and setup, and obviously that's different from your own and what you know? Like, how do you put that together?
Well, first of all, when I meet someone that's interested in personal training, I give them a consultation where I get to know them a bit more personally and find out what makes them tick. Like what interests them, what inspires them. Because without that inspiration and interest, it's hard to keep someone um, interested for a long period of time, because you don't, the last thing you want is to start training someone and then within a couple months they go, you know what, I'm losing interest, or I'm not motivated, and I can't continue doing it. So that's the last thing you want. So you want to find something that sparks that interest, that's going to keep them interested. I also find out about what their specific goal is, because everyone has a specific goal. I want to look like this. I want to be able to do this. This would help me, blah, blah, blah. It could be something as simple as, I just want to be able to go for a jog, because some people, like, they don't have the cardiovascular endurance to just go for a 5-minute jog, So it could be someone that wants to deadlift 100 kilos, or it could be anything, So it's finding that goal, and then from that, and finding out what their experiences is and what their knowledge is like, and also what kind of person they are. So some people are really very visual learners. Some people might need more instruction. So it's just finding out about that person, and then from that, basically, I try and find out as much information as I can, and then from that, I design a program specifically suited for their goals. But that program is up to change, as you get deeper into your fitness journey, your goals do change, because you might at the start go, what, I want to build some more muscle. Then you realize, well, building muscle takes a long time, right? It's not something that can just be easily attained. What else can I do in the meantime? Can I be fit, build muscle, and be powerful, or have good flexibility, mobility? Do I need to improve certain areas that are weaker areas? So yeah, each program is very specific and custom to the individual. I never give the same program to two people because no one is identical, right?
Big thing I learned as well is that like how you look as far as body and muscles has nothing to do with your strength
That's
at
very
all.
true, yeah.
Like
It's
it's
very surprising. Yeah.
when I look at like my strength and how I've built my strength over the last 2 years, and then how my body looks, like I'm on the leaner side. Like I've got the tone and the definition, and I achieved my goals, and I'm still working on certain goals as well. For instance, just while we're on the conversation, like I realized that my training for legs was not effective. Like I just wasn't pushing it in the right way. I wasn't doing the right things. You know, I thought that, oh, if I just do 15 minutes on the bike and this, that, and the other, that'll be fine. Or a little bit of casual lifting here and there with leg machines, that'll be fine. And it just wasn't. And I was like, right, I'm going to do this properly. And so, you know, I laughed at the meme and then I took it seriously and I dedicated a leg day. And now every week I have a leg day. And
Right.
I tell you what, in the space of maybe 3 to 6 months, I see that leg definition. The muscles are active. I can see how it's changed, how my body looks different. So now guess what? I'm still laughing, but I'm laughing because, you know, the meme's funny and also because it's working. But my point is that like, you know, it's something that you're always scrutinizing, isn't it? Your own training. Obviously, if you're training other people, you're scrutinizing their training and trying to see what works for you. And that changes all the time. Like I've had some exercises that I've done for ages. Like I used to do the step machine, for instance. I hated doing it. Apparently, it's really good for like losing weight or burning calories and building strength. But I just hated it. It just wasn't fun. And I'm thinking like, I want this to be fun. Like it's hard work. And I think this is a big problem as well. Because I'm always saying to my girlfriend, like, hey, come on, like it can be fun. And I think she's not as into it as I am. And I understand. But like, I think a lot of people tend to have this sense of dread when it comes to working out. Like, oh, it's going to hurt. Oh, it's going to be tough. Like, and yeah, it is. Like, I'm sure after 6, 7 years, like there's still moments where you're like, oh, I don't want to, but you push through it. And it's always rewarding at the other side. That's what I've always discovered. Like,
absolutely, yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like I'm not a big fan of, like, I always start my upper body workouts with the lateral pull down. And I enjoy it. And then I start getting into it. And then after a while, it starts to suck. But I push through it. And then I feel so much gratitude afterwards. And I've noticed that over time, it sucks less because you're getting stronger. You're able to lift more or do more reps or whatever. And you learn more effective ways to do that. Like I actually dropped down my weight on the lateral pull down so that I could have more effectiveness in my exercise. And it worked perfectly. And it meant it freed up more energy that I could spread across the whole workout. And that's another thing I think people don't always do. They think like, oh, I just need to train really, really hard on everything for like 2 hours and 3 times a week. Of course, you're going to hate gym if you're going like 6 hours a week and like everything's a slog. Like, no, like to be honest, some of my best sessions have been like 40 minutes.
You know?
Yeah.
I'm a big believer through my years of experience that it's not about how much you train or the volume of training. It's about the quality, the content of the training. There's this philosophy, for me, it comes from someone that's been a bit of an inspiration to me over the past few years, is a guy called Mike Mentz, who was a bodybuilder from the 70s and the 80s. And his methodology and sort of at the time, it was quite groundbreaking at the time, because the whole idea of building muscle and everything like that was the more the better, you know, the more volume, which I think Arnold, you know, and other bodybuilders of the time, they really pushed that you need to do lots and lots of reps and lots of sets, and that's how you build muscle and strength. But his His approach was very different. It was that you reduce the amount of volume, overall volume, and you do maybe instead of doing multiple working sets, for people that don't know what a working set is, you have warm-up sets which are there to just, psychologically and physically get yourself ready to do an exercise, building up to a working set. So you might do 3 sets, for example. 2 of those would be a warm-up set, and then you'd build into your working set. Arnold's approach was multiple working sets for one particular exercise, but Mike's approach was that you do the minimum amount of work required in the warm-ups so that you're sufficiently prepared for your working set, and then you go all out, because you've only got one set, so you've got to make it count. So you'd use techniques to help push beyond a point of failure. You can imagine a bench press where you're pushing the bar, right, and you just no longer can do a rep. You can no longer bring the bar to the top and contract the muscle. So you do have a training partner or someone to spot you to help you pull out an extra couple of reps with support, and then maybe control the negative part of the repetition slower, because we're a lot stronger on the negative than we are on the pushing of the weight. So he's using techniques like that. So that's my approach to training to build muscle at the moment, and what I've used in the past with clients, and I've seen great progress through that. But with that particular type of training, it's called high intensity training, HIIT, not to be mistaken for high intensity interval training. That's something different entirely. HIIT training, there's 3 principles to it, really. It needs to be high intensity. So whatever you're doing, you do it to your maximum effort. But it also needs to be infrequent, because if you are training to that extreme, you're causing a lot of damage to the muscle. Not only damage to the muscle, but systemic fatigue as well. Which, if I was to train 2 days in a row to that extreme, to that high intensity, that second day, let's say I trained a push day, for example. So for those that don't know that, a push day would be any pushing movement. So chest, shoulders, a tricep movement. And then I trained to that high intensity. And then the day after, I went in and trained my legs. The chances are that I'm probably not going to be fully recovered from that push day. So when I go into that leg day, I'm going to have systemic fatigue. I'm going to be a bit fatigued. I'm going to be tired. I'm not going to be able to push myself as much as I would be able to if I'd rested. So that's why with this style of training, it's important that you do have rest days to recover, and replenish your body with nutrients and get the rest that's needed, so that when you go into that next session, you're ready. You can push yourself again to that extreme. And then the last principle really of high intensity training is that the duration of the workouts are not too long, because I like this sort of idea that if you're a runner, right, you can do long distance at a slow speed for a long time, right? You can run for a long time at a slow speed. But if you were to sprint, you could only do that for a limited amount of time. And it's the same with this kind of workout. You can train long for a period of time, like 2 hours plus in the gym, with a lower intensity. But if you train with that intensity, there's no way you can train for that long. You probably only train for 30, 40 minutes, maybe an hour. You hit the exercises that you're going to do, maybe a small amount of exercises, 4 or 5 exercises, maybe 6 at a push, and you train very hard, and then you're done. You do one set per exercise. You train hard. You couldn't do multiple sets if you were really, really training to failure and beyond. It would be too much for your body to handle. So I really like that methodology and that way of training, because it's there's something about really giving your all and wanting to push yourself very hard. There's something that really interests me in that, and that inspires me and makes me want to do the best I can. It's like you've only got one shot, so you need to make it count. I really like that idea.
I remember the first time that we had this conversation about high intensity training. And at that time, I was already navigating towards that, but I was concerned whether I was doing enough. And to hear you say that, someone who's been working at it so long and it's backed up with another successful person who's been working on themselves in the field, like it felt so gratifying to know, like, okay, this is something, and like I don't have to go to the gym for 2 hours long. Like I can go in there, do those exercises, and it's like I look at it like this as well. When I'm at the gym, I don't know if you've ever seen me like when I'm working out and doing my stuff. Like I tend to be like really, I try to be lazy between sets, if that makes sense. Like I chill, I'm relaxed, I'm like walking around, I'm like da da da. But as soon as I, pick up the weights or get on the machine, it's business
Focus.
time. Yeah,
Yeah.
and I always think about what you said about making it as intense as possible and having the pressure on things, like making sure you're always feeling pressure. For instance, that time that you showed me another way of training, which involved like, I think you called it drop sets, something like that, where you basically drop the weight. And the idea is, so let's say I started on, say, 50 kg, and then I dropped down to 40, and then 30, then 20, 15, and so on. And like the principle being that I'm continuously getting something out of it. I'm lifting less, but even though I'm right at the bottom, I might even be only lifting up 5 kg, but that's the most painful 5 kg of all time, because I'm still going and I'm still feeling that intensity and that pressure. And it's just, come on, keep going. And like that, in essence, is what's doing the work. I think a lot of the time people forget that, like, you always need to be putting some degree of stress on yourself, but it doesn't, like, I think like you have to have control. Like one thing I've learned about bodybuilding now is that you can lift heavier, but if you do, you need to have like maximum control over it. Because if you don't, you're just not going to get as much. It's better to drop down. Like I'll give you an example. Like I used to do free weights, 18, maybe 20 actually, but I didn't have a lot of control. So I could do it. I can always do it, but just can't do as many reps. And it just feels like I'm not really getting much out of it. So I dropped right down. I dropped down to like 12 at one point, and I could do more with that. And then jumped back up. I think right now I'm at about 16s, and I tend to have that as the end of my workout, just to kind of get that last bit after having done, say, so this I'll just give everyone my workout routine now. So basically I do lateral pull down, do 3 sets on that, then I do chest press, 3 sets on that, and then I go to, I have it in my head, I always forget the name of this machine, tricep
push down.
Is it? I think it's called something else, but yeah, that would be what it is. When you push the arms down, push down.
Push down.
I think it was. I think it might just be called triceps press.
On a cable machine, or on a machine or cables. What do you use?
It's the one with the arms. I don't know.
Is it a dip?
Yeah.
Push down. Yeah, it's like a dip. It's like a seated dip machine.
Yeah, something like that. That's the one I can lift the most on. Which is interesting. And that's another thing as well about like how you can have strength in different areas. So you'd be like really strong in, say, like one area. Like I'm stronger doing, say, that than I am doing like chest press, for example. Which I just find that really interesting, like because
it really depends on the individual. Again, some people have really strong legs, some people have really strong glutes, some strong shoulders. It comes down to a bit of genetics, and then also just like I think what you can connect with as well, with what muscles you can connect with. But we all have different strengths in different areas. It's also leverages as well. So the shape of your body can really affect that. Some people are biomechanically good at deadlifts because they have maybe shorter legs, right?
Yeah.
And they can lift with the torso more, or when they have bench press, they have smaller arms, so the distance pressing from the chest upwards isn't as far, or they can arch the back more, or things like that. So leverages make a quite important when it comes to weightlifting. Also technique. As you were saying before about the weights and controlling the weights, and on the lat pull down, you said that you dropped the weight so you can improve the form and the technique.
Yeah.
Something that I'm a big advocate on when I'm training people, and in my own training too. Like, don't get me wrong, it's fun to go heavy and lift heavy stuff. Like, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Your ego can get carried away, and I think that's a problem with a lot of beginners, or even advanced lifters. They think more weight, more weight, more weight, and getting stronger is a sure sign of building muscle, which is the goal, right? If you're into bodybuilding, or if you're into trying to put some size on. But I always, like I said, I'm a big advocate of technique and control and form over weight, quality over quantity again. It's more about, when it comes to hypertrophy, which is building of muscle, is more about the connection and the stretch, of the muscle. Although, raw power is very important too, and lifting heavy weights is going to build muscle, definitely. But it's like two extremes. You can go very light and control it, stretch and feel everything and feel the muscle working, which is going to build muscle. And then you've got the other extreme where the form is kind of sloppy. It's, you're kind of cheating, curling the weight up, or you're rowing the weight and your back's rounding and stuff. So you got extremes on both sides, and I think it's just a bit of both. And as long as you're keeping it safe, experimenting with a little bit of bad form, but not too bad, but lifting heavy loads and then also feeling the stretch as well. So it's a combination of the two together that I find in my training works the best. Because you're going to get some people that are quite scientific, like, no, you need to stretch, you need to squeeze, you need to feel the connection with the muscle. And then you're going to get people on the other side, like, just lift heavy things, man. You know what I mean? So I think it's just finding what works best for you. I like to think of everyone as their own kind of science experiment. And with the volume training and the high intensity training, as I said earlier, where it's about, honestly, it's about finding what suits you. Everyone's different. Just like we talked about genetics, it's some people might respond really well to high volume training, where they do a lot of sets, a lot of reps, and they very frequently train, maybe 5-6 days a week. For some people, that might be too much. They might maybe once or twice a week, if the training with the right intensity is more than enough. So it's just about experimenting and finding what's best for you. And like we talked about the skateboarding, that's a lesson. We learned a lesson from the skateboarding. I think a big lesson that I've learned from bodybuilding and weight training is that you've got to try things and find out what suits you. And then once you find it, it's very satisfying to know, like, okay, this is what works for me.
I got to ask you this. We're going to have fun with this because obviously, as you mentioned, I agree with your points. It is very much like a science thing and you're testing and, like I never really sat down and like learned how to do the gym. I just kind of watched around me, looked online, whatever, right? But you find out the correct ways to do things, right? If you don't know, just ask, guys, or
Yeah.
Google it. Honestly,
Yeah.
there's no excuse. Now, I'm going to get into this question. I've seen some crazy shit in the gym over the years. I'm sure you have too. Things that are just not effective at all. Don't know what you're doing. Like I saw a guy the other day, and here's the thing. If he was a beginner at the gym, like a beginner, like first day, then I would have been like, all right, he just doesn't get it. But he was at the lateral pull down machine. Now the lateral pull down machine, not the lateral pull down, the tricep press, which has a seat. And the idea is you sit, you arc it back like here, so you can feel it with your chest and your arms and everything here. And then you get into the position and then adjust your weights and then you push down, right? And then reset, push down, and so on and so forth. But I mean, I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm ignorant in this, but like to use that machine correctly, you have to be sitting down, correct?
Um, it gives you more stability. Yeah, you don't
Okay.
have to be, but you'll. In fact, in some gyms, there's the same machine, but
Mhm.
there's actually a seat belt that goes across your waist, right? Because as you get stronger, like you said, you could max this machine out, which I believe is around 96 kilos to 100 kilos, which is very strong. It's one of the first machines that most people max out, and when I say max out, that means the full stack of weight in the gym, and it's very it's very satisfying. It's like landing a trick, right? You're like, yes, the first one I've managed to complete, because we're very strong in that position, because it's a compound movement, which a compound movement is when we use a compound of muscles. We're using our triceps, which is the prime mover in the exercise, but we're also using our deltoids, our shoulders, and our pecs, right? Our chest. So we're very strong in that position. So yeah, you can max that machine out, but you can go beyond that and go even heavier. Some gyms will have really, really heavy ones, but the weight is so heavy that it'll lift you up off the seat as you press. So some gyms have seat belts to hold you down. Or what I've done in the past is I've had friends hold my knees down, and I've pushed
Yeah,
a
I've
lot of
seen
weight.
videos of you doing that. It's insane.
Uh,
I've seen. By the way, I've seen this guy on this machine with like to the bottom weight. Plus, you put extra weights on top of that, on top of the thing that's weighing it down. To
yeah,
anyway, right now we know what the machine we're talking about. You've obviously given us a crash course there and like effective ways to use it, different variations, how it can help the body. Great, this is brilliant. Now, what if I told you the guy in question was not seated? He was facing the machine. So he's not
mm,
sitting on the machine. He's not pushing down. He's facing the machine
yeah,
and um, basically doing it back to front, pushing down, but he's
yeah.
on his knees
Okay,
in front of the machine, pushing
yeah.
it down
It's
on a
not that
low
that's
weight.
Yeah,
Like
it's not that that's wrong. I think a lot of people in the gym, you know,
a bit.
they
Okay, let's look at that logically for a second. The
yeah,
what he's doing there specifically. So he's trying to train biceps, I guess.
it would be more triceps, any kind of pushing movement. If it was a pulling movement, it would be
Yeah.
biceps.
Okay. Yeah. No, you're right. Yeah. My
Yeah.
bad. My bad. Okay. Yeah. So he's
That's
trying
okay.
to. So he's training the right body part,
Yeah.
but at the same time, I feel like that's the least effective way to do that because
Mm.
part of the point of you being elevated off the floor is that you can fully control that movement there, and as you said, like it's gives you maximum control. Whereas if you're seated in front of, like, it looked, first of all, it just looked uncomfortable for this
Yeah.
guy. And
Yeah.
secondly, I was kind of looking at it, and because that's the thing. Whenever I see someone doing something that doesn't make sense or it goes against like how you would use this machine, I always try to like just logically think about how. Do you know what I mean? Because I don't think it's ever right to just immediately dismiss it.
Yeah.
So there are certain things that are just like, no, that's just ridiculous what you're doing.
Yeah.
But in that instance, I was like,
Is that actually beneficial?
I
And
mm,
I, working in a gym, I see this all the time. I see people, really doing funny ways of doing certain exercises.
okay,
But the thing that I've come to realize over the past couple of years is that there isn't really a right and a wrong way to do something. If something is more effective for that individual, then that's okay. It's a bit unorthodox maybe, and it looks a bit funny. But if you feel like that works better for you, then do it. But as long as you're not putting yourself at risk of injury, there's a lot of things that I do where people are like, oh, you use that machine kind of differently.
yeah.
But look, if it works for you, I think that's okay. We're not all built the same. So for some people, they might sit on that machine and crank out a few reps and it feels great. For some people, they might need to maneuver the body in a different way, and that's okay.
But what is the craziest thing you've ever seen someone do at the gym?
Uh, Probably just being obnoxiously loud.
Oh my God.
and not lifting very heavy, you know, and grunting. And I think it's more characteristics. I don't think I've seen anything that's like so bad that's made me. I mean, sometimes I do see, you know, bad form and stuff, but that's my job, and I absolutely love it, is going up to people and saying, hey, you know, I saw you trying to do like a deadlift. Your form's not quite there. You know, do you want me to show you? And it's just about approaching people and helping people. And I have that knowledge to do that, which is beautiful, because not all the time people appreciate it. Some people are a bit offended, you know, but most of the time people are like really grateful. But as for like the craziest thing I've seen in the gym is mainly just people just being either ego lifting, I would say. So ego lifting, for people don't know what that is. It's where you lift weight that's too heavy for you, that you can control,
Hmm.
just for the sake of lifting heavy weight to come across as someone that's strong. And it's just ego, right? I think that's probably the craziest thing I've seen. It's just people lifting like deadlifts with like ridiculous amounts of weights, with the back bent, and then, you know, really putting themselves at danger. So yeah, that's probably the craziest thing I see. Really,
There's a guy online called El Campeon.
I've seen him.
You know what I'm talking about. Okay, for those who don't know, Google this. It's a dude who, like, I see these videos and I'm just like, why? What are you doing? So like he'll go on, like, I don't know, what would be a good example? Like
Leg
deadlift.
press, maybe. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, leg press. Right. So there's variations of a leg press machine, but like the one that he was on has the free weights on either side, so you can obviously control how many you put on. And he would just endlessly take weights from all around the gym to the point where it's like, I don't know, 5,000 kg or something. And then, yeah. And then, but here's the thing, and this is kind of like key in what me and Luke were talking about earlier when it comes to high intensity training and like making sure you're actually training body parts. If you can't do a full rep, then you're not training anything. Like, I give an example, like when you do the leg extension, right? You remember when you showed me like the effective way to do that?
Yes.
I remembered like I knew, like, obviously it's pretty straightforward, like you just lift forward and back, but like in order to do that effectively, you have to make sure that you're actually feeling it in your leg, right? If it's just like a quick like pop, done, like that's not doing anything.
Yeah.
And that's what I saw with El Campion, is like it was like a microscopic movement. There's like he's putting pressure on it, so maybe it's building something as far as that's concerned, but like building muscle, like building strength, no. I mean, like the funniest thing I ever saw with El Campion's videos was obviously him trying to like deadlift and all that, and he can sort of make it move a little bit. But then one time he got some guy to spot him, and it was chest press. He was doing something like, I don't know, 20 kg, like nothing, right? But like obviously, like normally I would never diss someone for like what you're lifting is what you're lifting. You know, it's not it's not a contest.
Yeah.
But with this guy, the guy that can lift 1,000 pounds easy, right? He did one rep, couldn't do it, and then the guys spotted him and immediately stops it, and he's like, yeah, oh, and he's like high-fiving, and I'm like, but nothing happened, you didn't do anything. I don't understand. Like, am I missing something? Is it satire? I don't get it.
That's a perfect example of ego lifting, right? It's
Totally.
it's trying to lift a weight that's beyond your abilities, and thinking that you did a good job, or you know, it's very strange, and it's something that's very common in most gyms, especially commercial gyms. Maybe not so much in more like bodybuilding or powerlifting gyms that are a bit more for the advanced lifter, but in commercial gyms, it's a very common thing to see. And that's why people get hurt. You know, people do get injured from these things, and it's something that I quickly learned was not to do that because I'd seen that happen in people, and I'd seen it happen in myself. I'd like, oh, my shoulder doesn't feel too good. You know, maybe I'm progressing a little bit too quick. But it's that consciousness of you know, being in tune with your body. And I think, again, that's another reason why I like this HIIT style training, this high intensity style training, is because you do push the weights. You know, you do one set, you push weights, you go heavy, but you listen to your body and you rest. And you keep the form very pure. The form is very strict. So it's not just about trying to lift as much weight as I can for one set and that's it. I keep the form very strict. The tempo is very controlled. And then that reduces the chance of injury. But, working in a gym, I see so many things,
I gotta ask, man. I gotta ask about this. Like, okay, so it's clear, about your thoughts and feelings when it comes to like how people approach, and that's a fair point. I think you made some really fair points there. That like maybe if it doesn't look like it makes sense, maybe it makes sense for them. Maybe it's working for them. So fair enough. But let's talk gym etiquette. I think I'll start by saying, like, I think you made a really solid point there. There is a massive difference between a commercial gym and a bodybuilding gym. Because with a bodybuilding gym, it's going to be more private. It's going to be a bit more serious. It's a different approach. People are serious. They're there to do certain things that maybe aren't possible at a commercial gym. And a commercial gym is not necessarily bad. It's just that it attracts people from all walks of life. And what I've noticed is it's seasonal. Gym is seasonal. So you get people that go, and there's different types of people. You get people that go all the time, your hardcore people, and then you got people that go like myself, that's somewhere in the middle, like 2-3 times a week and have been for years, and it's just part of life. And then you've got like people that sign up at the beginning of the year and then give up after 2 weeks or a month or whatever. Obviously you want people to stay as long as possible, but it's everyone's different, and it's a big commitment. I'm not trying to overlook that. It is a lot. But you get a lot of people with like bad attitudes, and I don't know what it is about gym and people with bad attitudes. Like, I'll give you a few things that annoy me, and I don't know, maybe you can walk us through some other things that annoy yourself or that you've picked up on. One thing that really pisses me off is I'll be at a machine. Let's say it's the chest press. I get this a lot on the chest press. People will stand and wait and stare at you, and they're right near you. Okay. And if anything, it really pisses me off. It throws me out of my game because I know what you're doing. I know you're waiting to go on this machine. I'm not going to speed up for you. I take my time. I'm done when I'm done. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not going to sit there for like half an hour on my phone like some fuckers do. Yeah. We'll get to that. But at the same time, like, I need to do my set, rest, few minutes, go again, rest, go again, rest, done. That's it. And for anyone that comes up to me and says, "Hey, how many sets you got, man?" No problem. I've got this many sets. I'll let you know. I'll probably grab you, or hey, I'm done. Great. Okay. But don't stand there like this waiting for me to be done. Okay. Cause fuck you.
Can I just touch on that subject? I've always thought that if a gym's busy, the equipment should be shared. And I understand that a lot of people that go to the gym are on a schedule, right? They're on a time frame. They don't have all the time in the world to stand around and wait for equipment to be free, and it can be very frustrating at a commercial gym especially when it's busy, which we know a lot about because the gym that I currently work at, the gym that I met you at, where you train now, is full of students and it's very busy, especially in the peak time. And for me as a trainer, I have a plan to stick to, right? I have a program that I want my clients to do. It's important that they stay on the same exercises. They don't deviate too much from the program because I want to make progress with them. So if there's a machine that's being taken by someone and I say, "Hey, excuse me," say in a really nice, polite way. Some people are just genuinely rude. How many sets you got left, "Excuse me, mate, sorry to disturb you." Never interrupt someone, by the way. If someone's doing an exercise and they're never disturb them. Let them finish their exercise, and then once they finish, then you can approach them. But so let's just say, I'd say to someone, "Hey, Chris, how many sets have you got left, mate?" And you'd say, "Oh, I've got 3 sets." And I'd say, "Do you mind if we jump in between rest times?" And you could either go, "Yeah, no problem," or you could say, "Actually, no." And majority of people will say, "Yeah, no problem," and that's absolutely fine. But some people will say no. And you just have to respect that, but it can be frustrating at the same time.
I'll say this though, dude. Like anyone that says no, you're a dickhead.
Pretty much.
Like, because here's the reality. Like, someone asked me to do that the other day. Now, do I want to do that? No, but they asked nicely and they were polite, and it's really not a big deal. Like,
No,
and
it's
actually, the great thing about it was he didn't adjust the weights either. He just went for it. Because I
Yeah,
lift
that's
quite
cool.
heavy on the tricep press, and he
Yeah.
didn't touch it. I was like, great, brilliant, I like this guy. But like, yeah, that's the key in what you said. Like, how you ask. See, the reason I get annoyed is because people, they don't go, oh, hey, well, most people do. Most people would be like, hey, excuse me, do you have, how many are you doing? Da-da-da-da. No worries. But a lot of people will be like, how many more you got left?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Can you hurry up? I need to go. No, they're just assholes.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
and I feel bad for you when you're doing or your colleagues, because I've seen that as well. I've seen like people be like, no, I got loads of sets to go, and it's like, come on, man. Like,
I can tell you, it happened the other day. Me and my friend were training, and there's a machine for the shoulders, right? And I said to the guy that was sat on there, he was on his phone, of course,
of course.
scrolling Instagram or whatever it was. And I just went up to him and I said, "Sorry, mate, how many sets have you got left?" And he went, "I've got 4 sets." So I said,
you.
me and my friend were like, "Okay, yeah, no problem." I went, "Do you mind if we could jump in between sets while you're resting?" And he just lifted his earphones up and he went, "I'd rather not, to be honest," and then put it back on. So, I got kind of like, but I didn't say anything. I left it because it's not worth it, right? And my friend was a bit like, we just thought we just said to what a dickhead. We didn't say that to him, but it is, as you say, it's gym etiquette. It's having respect for other people. Like putting the equipment back once you finish. That's a big one for me. Is look, you don't have to be so like, you could always leave the plates on the bar if you know someone else is going to use it or whatever straight after you. But if you finish with something, you generally should put it back after use. And it's the same with sharing equipment. If you're not using it and you're just having a little break, as long as they're not like really sweaty or anything, or you're not really sweaty, then there's no harm. As long as they're not taking too long or taking the piss out of you, then there's no harm in letting them have a go, and it's just general respect for it. It's just general respect for other people, I think. But yeah, that's another thing, right? If you share it with them and then between each set, they're giving you the daggers, they're watching you, waiting for you to finish. That can be off-putting. I get that totally, and it does happen. But
I don't understand people's mentalities with that. Like, and also just, I don't know. Like, I like to think of gym as kind of like a sacred place. Maybe I'm a bit too over the top with it, but like, it is sacred. Like when I start my workout, and I love that in the gym we go to, there's that studio space. I love how calm it is in there. It's a blackened room. It's chill.
No music.
I stretch. I just can't. Yeah, I don't put my music in yet. I just sometimes I do, but most of the time I don't. I kind of stretch, quiet, and then put my music in afterwards, and I'm ready to rock. But there's something to that, and I don't understand why people treat it like it's. Well, people are very messy. Like when they go to the free weights area, and to be fair, it's not just this gym; it's other gyms as well, commercial gyms, where everything's out of order. So I have to go on a hunting mission trying to find the weights that I need.
You've got one 10-kilo dumbbell, and then there's no other, and then you find it's under a bench upstairs somewhere. Like it's people. I think I don't know what it is. Maybe they think that the staff should just put the weights back, or that they just don't care.
But it takes 2 seconds. 2 seconds to put it back. And then boom, done.
Yeah.
That's it.
Totally agree with you. And someone that works in a gym, it's kind of frustrating to have to put stuff back after people. And I don't really like telling people like, hey, excuse me, can you put your weights back? Because I don't want to come across as that guy. But sometimes it's necessary, like there's been times when I come into the gym in the morning and there's like bars set up everywhere and stuff with like hundreds of kilos, and I've got to put all that back. So it's a bit of a workout in itself sometimes. But
have you ever had to tell anyone off at the gym?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
What kind of stuff have you had to tell people off for?
I'm very polite, so I would just say, hey, excuse me, can you please put your weights back after you're finished? But I know some people are a bit more like, hey, you can't leave that there, you know. So, but I'm a bit nicer with it, because I think some people, if they're beginners, it can be a genuine mistake. It can
Yeah.
happen to the best of us. We can just get a bit carried away. We're in a rush. We can leave stuff behind. I totally get that. But if you can deliberately doing that because you can't be asked, or because everyone else is doing it, then yeah, maybe you're being a dick.
What would you say are the biggest life lessons you've learned from gym and training?
The biggest life lessons is that I would say honestly that you have the ability to change your circumstances through hard work and consistency, and believing in yourself that you can do something as well, and that, you're not trapped in the current situation. You can make a positive impact and change for yourself, and also by helping yourself get physically fit, you can build be mentally stronger through that, and therefore be a positive impact on other people in your life, that in a way that you maybe didn't think you could be. My goal isn't exactly to like be an inspiration to people. My goal is to be the best version of myself, and that inspiring people is just a, a result of that. I think and yeah, another life lesson that I've learned is that people are very uh, people are amazing, man. People are amazing. What really sometimes inspires me more than anything is seeing people in the gym that are beginners or really overweight, that haven't got years of experience and feeling confident and lifting loads of heavy weights and stuff. The people that are coming to the classes that could be like morbidly obese or anything like that, that are putting the work in, but because they want to improve themselves. I find that very inspiring too. So just meeting people, different walks of life, different characters, and just to have an open mind and learn from people, and just be friendly as well. Like, just being, for me, working in a gym, working, as a personal trainer, you kind of have to be very positive a lot of the time, because most people that want a personal trainer, they don't want someone that's negative and think like, oh, you want someone that's motivated and inspiring as a personal trainer, as a coach. So attitude for me is a big thing that I've learned, is having just a general attitude of being friendly to people and being happy, and and what you get from being like that from people. If I come into the gym and I'm negative and I'm feeling a bit sorry for myself, I'm having a bad day, and I get the same from other people. People come up to me, they're not as interested in sharing with me, or they're not interested in being friendly in the gym, or they don't want a conversation with me. If I come in and I'm a bit more positive, and I'm smiling at people and greeting people, saying hello, offering advice and help, I get that in return as well. People are a lot more friendly. People are more inclined to want training, and that's a valuable life lesson. Is attitude. I think from the way what you put out is what you get in.
Let's suppose you're having a bad day or you're going through a bad time in your life. Like, how do you learn to leave your troubles at the door and go in with that attitude? I mean, that's not easy to
It's not.
smile, you know what I mean? Be that positive force when maybe it feels like everything's kind of falling apart a bit, like how do you do that?
I would say practice. Also, to put things, I put things in perspective, and I think about my life, and I think about how it would benefit me to be negative. Like I think about it like, is this going to serve me in a good way, or is it going to serve me in a bad way? I think about how hard it is for some people to come to the gym, and the anxieties and the stresses and other things. And then, I think about how easy it is for me to do that, and how I can help people and teach them things. And so I think as humans, we're all a little bit insecure, and we all have our insecurities. It's normal. No one's perfect. No one's indestructible. There's things that I'm insecure about, and there's things that the next person is insecure about,
Absolutely.
right? So, a good thing I say, sorry, the thing that I definitely have is physical health and well-being. I'm very strong. I'm capable, and in the gym, I probably come across as someone that's uh, someone that knows what they're doing, and I think that, well, I'll just say this. I'll give you an analogy of when I was training. Sorry, an anecdote. When I first started training, and I had like no muscle, no clue what I was doing, and then I'd speak to some of the guys that were more experienced, pretty jacked, and most of them are just genuinely happy to help you and to show you because they're so passionate about it, right? Um, it's their life. Maybe it's their livelihood, or it's their hobby, their interest, and they're wanting to share that with other people. And I feel the exact same way now as someone that's got that experience, that's spent so much time in the gym. I love nothing more than showing a beginner or a newbie, how to use something, or the benefits of using something, or what they need to be eating to gain muscle, or anything like that. Yeah, just helping people, man. I think that's another valuable life lesson I've learned. It's just helping people, and the satisfaction from that. It really makes life a lot easier. Which then, therefore, going into the gym, sometimes I might have a bad day, but knowing the fact that I've come in and I've helped someone, genuinely helped someone, and made them feel better. Like they could be having a bad day. If they come in and I go, "Hi man, how's it going?" You know, there's definitely something to be said about making other people feel good.
Couldn't agree more. What's the best advice you've ever received?
The best advice, a lot of advice, Don't know if I've applied much of it, but the best advice, probably when it comes to physically training, is not to overtrain, I think, and to enjoy it. I've got a really bad habit of getting so emotionally invested that I forget that I should be enjoying this. I guess I just recently did a competition called High Rocks,
Yeah.
which is like a fitness competition, a bit like CrossFit in a way. It's a mixture of doing functional training, and for those that don't know what functional training is, it's a style of fitness, style of training with weights, and also body weight, where you have a lot more movement. So jumping, pushing, pulling, carrying, these kind of things, bit more functionality to it rather than just, standing barbell curls where you're just lifting weights. There's a lot more power involved, things like that, endurance. So this Cyrox race was basically a fitness test in a way. There's thousands of people compete in it all over the world, and it involves running a kilometer followed by a functional exercise 8 times. So there's 8 kilometers and 8 exercises. So you do 1 kilometer exercise, 1 kilometer exercise, and so on. So it's very intense, and I trained very hard for it for a good few months with some friends. I absolutely loved it, but I forgot to have fun a little bit, and I was so determined to reach a goal, a time frame, right? Because you race for time. And I had in my head like, I need to achieve this. And on the day, I got really bad cramp in my legs, and I wasn't as fast as I wanted to be. But But after it now, I look back and I think, yeah, I still had fun, but I probably just put a bit too much pressure on myself. So a good piece of advice, I think, is not to put too much pressure on yourself. Enjoy it, and if you do have days where you don't want to train, that's okay. If you do have days where you don't eat the things that you wanted to, or you're a bit unmotivated, that's okay, because it's about, at the end of the day, it's about the bigger picture. It's not about progression. Isn't just linear, it's bumps, ups and downs, and as long as you're making small wins over a long period of time, you're doing the right thing. So don't let setbacks stop you from. It's like the skateboarding, right? You fall down, you get back up again. It's the same thing. Yeah.
Amazing stuff. What's the biggest life lesson you've learned so far?
I don't know. It's a tough question, man. Tough question. Not to take life too seriously. Because life is serious. Of course it is. But at the same time, it's if you do take life too seriously, it takes the enjoyment out of it. I want to do this. I want to have this. I don't have this, so I'm not happy until I get this, and then you get that, and then you're not happy because you want something else, and it's too much. I think that being satisfied with what you got is probably the true key to happiness, I think.
I couldn't agree more with that. Yeah. Like when I think about the things I want in life and how I want my life to be. And, like I was doing a live stream the other day and I was saying to everybody how I've made a new commitment to try, like when I show up, trying to do the same thing you do. You walk in with a positive attitude. If I'm doing a live stream, it's positive. If I'm doing a podcast, it's positive.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean I'm running away from negativity or not embracing it. On the contrary, I just choose to be positive and see the positivity and still have fun. And I likened it a lot to, like, let's say you're in a sinking ship. Do you cry about it, or do you get trashed with a friend and you drink and you tell stories and you enjoy the ride and you try to maybe even crack a joke and a laugh? Enjoy any and all moments, even if things are dire or you're really struggling. There's always something, some positivity somewhere to be enjoyed. Just have to look for it.
I agree, man. I think it's a real shame that a lot of people don't live like that, and they live in the past, or they live worrying about the future and not being in the present. And I'm just as bad of it. I'm only human. I do that. I dwell on the past sometimes. I think I worry about the future. But what I'm starting to realize as I'm getting older is that I'm a lot happier in the present. I'm a lot more relaxed, and it makes me. I enjoy myself a lot more. There's not as much anxiety or fear, and I'm just trying to go through my life as smoothly as possible. Life isn't smooth, obviously, but just trying to go through it as smoothly as possible. I think what I'm trying to say basically is that, just don't take life too seriously. in simple words, I don't know. I know it's harder than it sounds. It's not as simple as that, but it can actually be that simple. There's a lot of negative things in this world, and I talk about this quite a lot with some people. Because a lot of people are down. A lot of people are depressed. A lot of people have anxiety about the future, about what's going on with conflicts and economy and things like that. And it's totally understandable and it's totally reasonable to be worried and have fears about the future and things. But at the same time, I don't believe it gets you anywhere. Worrying about these things, overly worrying about things that haven't happened, or things that are out of your control. And that's why, for me, something that I'm developing and something that I'm working on in my own life is my philosophy on things like this. And I'm not saying that I'm in, I'm impenetrable fortress, that I don't feel emotions and things like that. I definitely do. Like I said, with insecurities and stuff, but it's just dealing with those in the correct way for me to still progress and not let it hold me back. And for that, I would recommend that anyone that has these insecurities or these fears or anything like that, um, does some real thinking about philosophy and for me personally, stoicism
Mm,
has uh, has really helped me think about things that, because the main the one of the main things about stoicism is not worrying about things that are out of your control, and only being concerned about the things that you can do, about being a good person and helping other people and doing the right things, and not letting outside things really upset you. Or But again, it happens, it happens. I get it, and it's totally understandable. I think it's just being kind to ourselves and saying, hey, you know what, I feel that way. I feel upset about this, but that's okay. It's a normal human emotion. I feel anger, but it passes with time, and just being a bit more aware that emotions come in waves, and you may feel like this one day, but another day you might feel differently about it, and that's okay. And just be kind to yourself.
thanks so much, man. Final question for you. Do you have any upcoming projects or some final thoughts that you'd like to share with our listeners?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. So at the moment, I'm working at the Pure Gym with you
Woo!
at Third Street in Manchester. But I'm leaving there. I've decided to move on to find a different gym, different part of town, bit more further north. I'm going to a gym called King Street Gym. Um, I'm really excited. New opportunities, new goals, new experiences, new people to meet, different atmosphere. That's going to be great. I've got some stuff in the pipeline that I want to do. I want to really get involved in martial arts. I think that's the next step for me. I think that's what I'm going to progress into next. I've I have an interest, obviously, in many different things, as we've talked about, and I've always been fascinated by martial arts. So I think that's probably going to be my next step. And then I think from there, I want to design maybe a brand that incorporates weight training, martial arts, and then also mindset and psychology and physiology, and being a strong person, not just physically but mentally strong too. And I think eventually my goal is to either create a brand that has those values, or some kind of coaching program that incorporates all three things. So yeah, that's kind of what I've got planned in the future.
Well, best of luck with all of that, man. I definitely think you got mm, the mental strength to do it, to pull it off. I look forward to seeing it, man. I can visualize it already. It's
Yeah,
exciting, man. It's
and if
exciting hearing
anyone
that.
yeah, if anyone wants to get involved, or if anyone has any questions about fitness, or wants to get started, I'm here for everyone. I
Mm.
don't I won't judge. If you want to lose weight, you want to gain weight, you just want to get walking, you want to build some muscle, whatever it is that you want to do. If there's a sport that you're interested in, or if there's anything that you're interested in about what I talked about, just drop me a message on Instagram. You can find me at Functional Fitness. Um, I'm happy to help anyone, literally anyone. So yeah, that's it really. Yeah, it's been a great conversation, man. Thanks for having me on. Really appreciate it.
Oh, it's
Um,
been an absolute pleasure having you on, man. Honestly, I knew it was going to be a good show, but all the same, thank you for your time and for sharing your insights and your wisdom.
no problem. No problem, man. We'll have to catch up soon, and we'll get on the skateboards, man.
Yes, because I haven't
Great.
skated since, oh my gosh, what year is it now? 2024. It's probably maybe since university. maybe 10 years ago, 9, 10, fucking hell.
You're getting fakey
Damn.
big spins going, yeah? Fakey big spins.
Oh, I can't wait. I
Yeah.
want to master the tray flip. That was one that I never quite mastered, and I always wanted to land.
Took me a long time to get that. It took me a long time. Yeah. It's one of those tricks that, you know, like 50% of the time, I would fail it. You know, it was only now and then I would land it, but it's a great trick. And yeah, I miss skateboarding, man. So I'm looking forward to getting back into that too.
Thank you very much for appearing on the show, Luke, and I'll be catching up with you very soon. To all the listeners of the Christian Reeve podcast, thank you so much for watching and listening. Make sure you go check out Luke and everything he's doing online. Especially to say the future is bright for him, and he's got a lot of plans down the pipeline, so we can't wait to see that. If you enjoyed this show, depending on where you are, if it's on YouTube, make sure to like, share, and subscribe. As always, leave a comment, leave a review. If it's on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, please leave us a rating, a review. It really, really helps us out, guys. I know I stress this all the time, but like it really, really does help. For the people that left reviews on Podchaser as well, thank you so much for that. Because the fact of the matter is, it is still a small podcast. We've been going 4 years, this is 57th episode now, but we still need reviews and ratings and stuff. That's how we prove to other people that it's a show worth listening to. You can't just take my word for it, So if you liked it, please let the world know. Please share. Really, really means the world. In addition, if you'd like to support me and my journey and what I'm doing and support me in making bigger and better podcasts in the future, make sure to subscribe to Patreon, patreon.com/Christian Reeve. You get access to my monthly show over there called Life with Christian Reeve. You also get access to behind the scenes content, bonus content. I'm posting a lot over there right now, so it's a good time to join. But yeah, anyway, thank you very much for watching and for listening. I hope you enjoyed this episode as much as I did, and I will see you in the next one.